the 7 days of creation, modern humanity is making its descent along the involutive arc. Obviously, as the cycle of existences ends, which is always 108, one enters the bowels of the earth. In time, there, one undergoes processes analogous to beasts, vegetation, minerals, etc., not on the physical plane, like animals, plants, minerals, but in the atomic hells of nature. That is why demons take the form of beasts, etc. An individual who only indulges in creating for their personal use an astral body and later becomes a Hannesmussen by dedicating themselves to black magic, if they do not regenerate in new existences, enters the mineral kingdom directly on the physical plane, to eliminate what remains of the Hannesmussen. Once eliminated, they continue in human bodies and as a human, although they may be sent to the infernal worlds. Not all traitors go directly to the 9th Dantean circle. These are special cases like the one mentioned by Dante. The individual who invites his wife, his children, and his entire family to dinner and then poisons them all with dessert. In the 9th Dantean circle, millennia or even millions of years pass. Fourth dimension. We have said that the fourth dimension is time. It is truth. A table has 3 dimensions, length, width, and height, but there is a fourth dimension. How long ago did the carpenter make the table? That is the fourth dimension. Now, that the fourth dimension is processed in time is true. In any case, there is a difference between time and the fourth dimension, just as there is a difference between the vase on the table. The fourth vertical exists as a geometric concept. It exists as time, but in an existence that, like all existences, is relative, because a universe is nothing more than a dream of Brahma. Now then, after the cosmic night arrives, the universe ends, it vanishes like soap bubbles. As the Kabbalion already said, everything is and is not at the same time. The fourth dimension exists and will exist as long as the Maha Manvantara exists. That time is processed in the fourth dimension? Well, it must be processed somewhere, but that does not mean that time is the fourth vertical, but it does have a relative existence. Just as if one does not arrive in time to catch the train leaves. In the sacred absolute Sun, the universe in its complete, integral, unified form has its existence and intelligence in the sacred absolute Sun. Now, as the different phenomena of the universe crystallize, they give rise to a variety of time. For example, we see the sun rise and set, and we say it rose at 6, set at 6, and that 12 hours have passed. But where are those hours? Could they be analyzed in a laboratory? They have no reality. They are subjective concepts and subjective opinions. The process of the sun rising and setting is 2 phenomena. These 2 processes of the sun rising and setting are formed moment by moment, instant by instant, but we have our beloved hours. This is a concept of the mind. Therefore, time has no objective reality, and since it is subjective, it is processed in the fourth vertical, but that does not mean that time is the fourth vertical. Many believe that Genesis took place a few million years ago, but that is not the case. Genesis is to be lived in sexual alchemy. The alchemist must work within themselves with the same laws that God used to create the universe. Therefore, Genesis pertains to the work with oneself, here and now. It is said, for example, that God created the heavens and the earth. To what earth does Genesis refer? To our philosophical earth, the physical body of the alchemist, or the elemental earth of the sages. And the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the face of the abyss, and the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the waters. General 1-2, that is the first day of all creation, where one must descend to the infernal worlds to work. The principle of our spermatical chaos is in darkness. This philosophical earth, the human body or sexual system, is in complete disorder. However, the Spirit of God moves over the spermatical waters of the first moment. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. General 1:3-5. That is the first work one must do in alchemy. Separate light from darkness. Extract light from darkness. One must then descend into the abyss. Creating light is difficult, but not impossible. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." General 1-6. That is clear. One must separate the higher waters from the lower waters. Here is what is called preparing the mercury of the sages, the mercury of secret philosophy, for we know that mercury is the metallic soul of the sacred sperm. The higher water must be separated from the lower water. Genesis continues. And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse, and it was so. And God called the expanse heavens, and there was evening, and there was morning, the second day. General 1:7-8. That is the second part of the alchemist's work, the great work, preparing the mercury of secret philosophy to work intensely. The upper part of that mercury is called heavens, and the lower part is called earth. And God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear," and it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. General 1:9-10. This is difficult work, the third day, when one must create the astral body. The first day is related to the physical body, the second to the vital body, and the third to the astral body. And God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit according to their kind, with seed in them, on the earth." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed according to their kind, and trees bearing fruit, with seed in them according to their kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day. General 1:11-12. This is the part related to the perfection of the astral body, meaning that if one has created it, it corresponds to the period of converting the astral body into a body of pure gold. It has to do with the seed because the seed is sexual, and it is closely related to the astral. Then comes the fourth day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He also made the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. General 1:14-19. This is the fourth task to be done with the mind. Since the mental world is the world of hermetic magic, this is where one works with the sun and the moon, with the masculine and feminine principles. The stars are the stars of the spirit, the faculties, and they relate to intelligence. This is connected to the creation of the mental body, and for those who already have it, to the perfection of that body. In this way, it is relatively easy to understand. And God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life, and birds that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven." And God created the great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, "Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening, and there was morning, the fifth day. General 1:20-23. This is the fifth day of the work, which has to do with the causal body, with its creation. Those who already have it must deal with the causes of their errors, with those terrible monsters from which the egos, came, with those causes that gave rise to so many psychological defects. These causes are true beasts that one must face and endure. This is known by everyone who has worked in the great work. This belongs, then, to the causal body. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created them. Male and female he created them. General 1:26-27. It must be understood that this is not as it is commonly believed. Clearly, on the sixth day of work, one must suffer and deal with all the monsters that we ourselves have created, corresponding to dreadful and terrifying conscious states. But the great thing about this day is that the body or spiritual soul achieves complete Christification. She is the soul spirit, which fully integrates with the human soul. The human soul is masculine, and the spiritual soul is feminine. From the fusion of both emerges the true human, both male and female simultaneously. The hermaphrodite spirit, the true divine human, perfect and authentic. This is the sixth day of the work. Then Genesis continues by telling us, giving commands to the true human, the spirit human. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it. Clearly, the true human is the master of creation, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. General 1:28. Humanity, yes, is capable of eliminating all internal beasts, that is, their own defects and the causes of those defects. Thus, the true human is the king of creation, of all that is and will be. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, it shall be for food. And God saw everything that he had made, and, behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. General 1:29-31. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day, and sanctified it, because in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. General 2:1-3. Genesis is also related to the creation of the earth, which was first mental, then descended to the astral, then to the etheric, and finally to the physical. All of this was accomplished in 6 days or 6 periods, and rest was taken on the seventh. Each of these periods represents eternities. Dissolution of the ego. To dissolve it, one must first understand the importance of self-observation. It is necessary to observe. If one is sitting in a chair, they know they are sitting, but that does not mean they have observed themselves sitting. In the first case, there is a state of inattentiveness. In the second, there is a state of focused attention. Someone might know they are thinking, but that does not mean they have observed their thoughts. Someone may become aware of a negative state within, of a low emotional state, but this does not mean they have been observing themselves. True observation is often confused with knowledge. One might know they are in an undesirable state and yet not have observed it. True observation should not be confused with thinking either. One might realize they are following negative and harmful thoughts, but this does not mean they are observing them. One must learn to observe carefully in order to achieve self-knowledge. When one carefully observes their physical body, it may be difficult at first to discover any error. Later, one begins to uncover any psychological defect, and that is where one must start. Normally, the Gnostic student does not know where to begin the dissolution of the ego. It is necessary to observe, to self-observe. What needs to be done is to observe the defect in question, understand its mode of action. Any ego can express itself in the motor, instinctive, sexual center in one way, in the emotional center, located in the heart, in another way, and in the intellectual center in yet another way. First, observe it, know it. Then, it must be judged critically, analyzed, and understood. This is the second step. Later comes the third, execution. Then, there will be a need to concentrate on the Divine Mother Kundalini and beseech her to separate from our psyche and reduce to ashes the defect or psychological ego that we have first observed and then critically judged. As the ego dissolves, the essence will gradually be freed. In this way, when all the egos have been completely dissolved, a permanent center of consciousness will form within us, the golden embryo. The true powers reside in the essence. Within us, many people live with contradictory interests. Now you will understand why it is necessary to learn how to pray. One must know how to pray. In the field of practical life, we can observe 4 states of consciousness. First state, it is completely inhuman. It is the state of that person who left their physical body in bed. The ego roams the molecular world, dreaming, rambling in a state of absolute unconsciousness. Fortunately, the physical body lies in bed passively. But what if it were awake, active for dreams, while the ego roamed? What would the results be? Second state of consciousness. It is the state of a person who has awakened from ordinary sleep, the one who has awakened, active for their dreams, the dreamer who has continued being active for their dreams in the so-called state of wakefulness. If a prayer is made from that first and second floor of our inner house, it would turn out completely negative, because one can pray unconsciously, mechanically. For example, one might pray for rain, and many selves that exist within us, seeming like real people coming and going independently, have no interest in rain. They might take up the idea of praying, but ask for it not to rain. In a mechanical state, one might ask to be freed from some economic, moral, social, or political problem, and the selves, being contradictory, each with its own criteria, way of being, and thinking, ask for exactly the opposite of what one was going to request, and nature responds accordingly, with forces contrary to what we requested here in the physical world. For prayer to have power, one must be in the third state of consciousness, the intimate self-remembrance. When one concentrates on their Divine Mother Kundalini or their Father who is in secret, there is an intimate self-remembrance. If we ask our Divine Mother, who is part of us, part of our inner being, to eliminate any undesirable element, there is an intimate self-remembrance, and the prayer reaches her. This is conscious prayer, which is distinct from mechanical prayer. The fourth state of consciousness is that of the truly enlightened, the Turiyas, the God-men, and one speaks with the Father who is in secret, with the Divine Mother face to face. To ask, one must place oneself in the third state of consciousness, internally, deeply concentrated, uniting the mental, emotional, and motor centers in perfect harmony. There is no doubt that within us live 3 brothers who are always fighting among themselves, and never agree. The first is the intellectual center, the second is the emotional center, and the third is the motor instinctive sexual center. The mind wants one thing, the emotion another, and sex yet another. For concentration in prayer to be perfect and effective, it must be clearly formulated with the mind, felt in the heart, and moved and acted upon in the direction of the prayer. When thought, emotion, or feeling and action are united into one, the egos are eliminated. However, one must divide themselves into observer and observed, as explained before.